Hey, it's Rick Kettner here. Let's go over 7 steps to evaluate a business opportunity and a simple way to score each of your ideas to choose the best one. This is a follow-up to my previous video on how to generate new business ideas. You can find a link to that video in the video description box below. And of course, if you're ready to build and grow your business, I recommend that you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to get an alert when we launch new videos. But let's get started. We're going to go through 7 questions that you should ask yourself when evaluating a business idea. First up, do you know exactly who your target customer is? An all too common response to this question is everyone or some other broad and generic audience. And the problem is, even if your product has broad market appeal, it's important to start by identifying one core audience, ideally a group of potential customers that are really enthusiastic about your product and not only willing to pay for it, but also likely to share or recommend it to others. So, on a scale of 0 through 10, how well do you know exactly who your target customer is? Get a pen and paper and rate your confidence in this one area. And note, you'll be choosing a rating for each of the following questions as well. That way, you can score the overall potential of your business idea. Next up, number 2, can you easily afford to reach potential customers? It's critical that you have some way to reach your target audience. That doesn't necessarily mean paid advertising, but you do need some way to get your product or service in front of potential customers in an affordable and consistent way. So if you've defined your target audience as something like small business owners with 15 to 25 employees, you need some way to reach this group. Is there somewhere that they get together? Do they search for common phrases on Google? Can they be targeted with a Facebook campaign? Do they subscribe to a magazine or newsletter? Is there another product or service that they likely buy? At the end of the day, you want to figure out if others have already solved the problem of reaching your target audience. Because if you aren't able to easily get your product or service in front of them, then you don't really have any control over the long-term success of your business. So on a scale of 0 through 10, how easy will it be to reach your potential customers? And not just once, but in an ongoing and predictable way. You want to be confident in your ability to attract and convert potential customers to your business. Okay, next up, number 3, does your audience communicate with each other? One of the most important aspects of marketing is word of mouth referral. It doesn't matter if you're selling to consumers or to other business owners. It's best if your customers have some predictable way to recommend your product or service to other potential customers. Now, just to be clear, I'm not talking about starting an affiliate program or even actively encouraging customers to recommend your product or service to others. The question here is, do your potential customers naturally connect with each other in some way? Not necessarily at a big group event or at a conference, but just how likely is it that one will run into another on a regular basis? So, once again, on a scale of 0 through 10, how likely is it that potential customers communicate with each other? You may not have a clear answer for this today, but as with all of these questions, just make your best guess based on what you know right now. Next up, number 4, is what you're selling a vitamin or a painkiller? This is a common analogy for understanding the urgency that people may or may not have for your product or service. Because at the end of the day, most people do not proactively buy things like vitamins. Instead, they tend to wait for something to go wrong, and then they urgently buy things like painkillers. So the idea here is to get clear on how people view your product. Is it something that solves a burning need, or is it something that's just nice to have? Now, keep in mind there are many reasons why someone might have an urgent need for what you sell, because we're all driven by deep human desires like building social bonds, gaining self-acceptance, avoiding or reducing risk, creating freedom, improving social status, and even just seeking purpose in life. So think about why people might buy your product or service. And then on a scale of 0 through 10, with 0 being vitamin and 10 being painkiller, ask yourself, how urgent will people feel about buying your product or service? Now, just to be clear, this question isn't as critical as some of the others, but it's still something important to consider when choosing a business opportunity. Next up, number 5, do people already spend money on similar products? It's really difficult to get people to change their spending habits or to get them to spend money on something that they aren't used to paying for. So ideally, you want to be selling something that already fits into a spending category that your potential customers are familiar with. So, for example, if your customers are already spending $100 a month on random entertainment and you're selling something that's entertaining, then you're more likely to be successful. But if your potential market has never ever spent a single dollar on a mobile application and you're trying to sell them a $10 monthly subscription to a mobile game, you're far less likely to be successful. So, on a scale of 0 through 10, how likely is it that customers already spend money on similar products? And just note, it doesn't have to be the exact same kind of product, but the customer should be at least familiar with both the product category and, of course, the method of payment as well. Next up, number 6, can you become the leading brand in the category? The most dominant brands tend to be those that customers link with a specific product category. And this is almost always a result of the brand being first to find success in that space. For example, think of the one brand that you associate with each of the following categories: fast food, coffee shops, ride sharing, electric cars, and streaming television. If you're anything like the majority of mainstream customers, you likely thought of McDonald's, Starbucks, Uber, Tesla, and Netflix. The reason why is that our brains are wired to create mental associations between things, including brands and product categories, and we rarely alter these associations once they've been established. So it's very valuable if you can be first to find success in a specific product category. Now, if there's already a leading brand in the category that you want to enter, the easiest solution is to create a new category. So for example, rather than competing head-on against McDonald's for the fast food category, you might aim for healthy fast food or Mexican fast food or maybe gourmet fast food. So on a scale of 0 through 10, how likely is it that your brand will become first in its category? Or put differently, will you be able to identify or create your own niche that you can own? Okay, last but not least, number 7, is there an inexpensive way to test your idea? This may be the single most important question in this entire process, and that's because you don't want to spend $25,000 or $50,000 developing a product, building out a service, or advertising a business, only to find out that the core idea is flawed in some big way. So even if you've done your research to validate your idea, you still want to find an inexpensive way to prove that real people are willing to pay you money and that you have a cost-effective way to reach them. Now, I have another video that explains how to do this in more depth, and I'll link that up in the video description box below. But for now, it's important to just get a rough sense of whether or not you can inexpensively test both your business idea and the marketing channels needed to promote it. For example, could you set up a simple website that promotes the product as if it already existed? And could you drive traffic to that page through Facebook ads or Google ads to gauge initial interest before building it? Consider simple options like this, and then once again, on a scale of 0 through 10, ask yourself, how likely is it that you'll find an inexpensive way to test your idea? Now, if you're feeling overwhelmed at this point after going through all 7 questions, that's perfectly okay. You aren't expected to have all the answers or even 10 of 10 ratings across the board, nothing like that. The goal here is to just get a rough sense of what to consider when comparing ideas. But at the end of the day, the real potential of an idea is what you make of it. So the most important thing that you can do next is choose an idea that's promising and then take action to get the ball rolling. And that's because business is a learning process. It involves adapting to new information. And the only way to get that new information is by taking your first steps. As Mike Tyson famously said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. And the fact is, when you start a new business, you will take some shots. There will be some surprises. But if you never start, then you're never really in the game. And if you're never in the game, then you aren't really learning or growing. So the single most important thing to do is to just start, to find a promising idea and then take action to move that idea forward. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you're looking for inexpensive ways to test product ideas or marketing channels, I recommend that you watch the next video. I'll link it up in the video description box below. If you have any questions or if you have other recommendations for how to evaluate a business opportunity, please share them in the comment section below, and be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications if you want to get an alert when new videos are published in the future. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.